on a basketball scholarship. Eventually graduated from the Air Force Academy and went to training for the United States Air Force in Enid, Oklahoma. For 4 years, he trained in the city that Rochelle and I are from. He was the smartest man on base. And don't take my word for it. Take the word of his commander, who is here today. Where is Commander Clinton? Would you stand up for a moment? Give him a round of applause. In fact, David told me, his wife Leanne is here and their kids. He told me that when he walked into the room and Matt Lohmeier was there, he was the smartest person in the room. Correct? That's what he said. Now, that was proven out because of Matt's career. He was an instructor pilot in Enid after he graduated from pilot training, training future pilots for America. Then, the United States Air Force sent him to be an F-15 fighter pilot on behalf of the United States Air Force. After serving as a fighter pilot, he was chosen to serve back then in a command with the Air Force involving space, which would later change to the United States Space Force. Because of his service with our United States Air Force, and because a couple of generals, that I will not mention their names, chose him to be the attaché for them, he traveled the world on behalf of the United States and ended up attaining 2 master's degrees funded by the United States government, one in military operations, the other in military strategy. The second master's that he obtained at the specialized school called SAS, an acrostic, in Montgomery, Alabama, that very few people have heard of, comprised of the top Air Force pilots in the world, from France, Spain, Germany, South America, all over. He represented the United States. They sat around a table, read a book a day, and debated the book. This is where his second master's came from. He went back to the Air Force, and Donald Trump resurrected the United States Space Force. And when I say resurrected, what I mean by that is there's a long history I won't go into. But thanks to Donald Trump, he resurrected the United States Space Force, and Commander Matt Lohmeier was appointed command of missile warning. Now, I've been cleared to share with you this so that you know what he did. His command was responsible for watching satellites from space to ensure that any missile fired from North Korea or Iran or any other country in the world could be seen within 2 seconds. And then it's classified how long it takes for the warning to be issued. But phones, including a red phone to the White House, was beside Commander Matt Lohmeier. He could pick up and give warning to any nation in the world. Let me give you just one illustration of what Commander Matt Lohmeier's team did in saving United States troops. In January of 2020, Iran, for some unknown reason, fired between 12 and 24 ballistic missiles at 2 United States bases in Iraq. Within seconds, Matt Lohmeier and his command issued a warning through a phone call, basically saying this in summary: you have 3 minutes to get into bunkers before your base is destroyed by missiles from Iran. Because of his command, every single troop based at those 2 bases had their lives saved by being in bunkers when those ballistic missiles went off. tell this is a special guy. He wouldn't say this. I'll tell you this. Because of his pedigree, because he was the man being pushed by the generals, he was on track to become the director commander of all of U.S. Space Command. 2 years before anybody can obtain promotion to lieutenant colonel. Only 1% get a promotion 2 years before the standard date. He was part of the 1%. Because of his world travels, his master's degrees, because of his leadership skills, this man was on track to become a leader of the United States of America. Then he noticed something happening. Command around him were breaking the law, speaking ill against our sitting president, threatening people if they made any statement publicly in support of our president, they would be disciplined. He filed an IG, Inspector General, request going through the protocols to report the man who did this. That IG report that he filed had 24 witnesses on it. The military sat on it, did not investigate. None of the witnesses were called. Matt was never called. An election took place. I cannot tell you because it's classified where Matt was going to go next. But the election took place, and when January the 6th occurred, the next day, that IG report was sent back saying it's dismissed. Matt says, I don't get it. I'm risking my life for this country. I've gone through the proper channels to hold the rule of law in place. And the proper channels have been closed down. So he decided to write a book. He wrote the book called Irresistible Revolution. This book is a classic work on the history of Marxism. And if you want to know where Marxism comes from, he will tell you from the very beginning, Cain and Abel. The story of the oppressor and the oppressed starts from the beginning of this world. He very clearly articulated the problems within our military. He went through all the channels he needed to go through for this book to be written. 4 months after the official IG report was rejected, Matt published this book. 1 week later, he was fired. When he was fired, this is what they did. They said, Matt, you're fired, but we've got to do an investigation. So you're under quarantine until we finish the investigation. Guess what? The people who fired him had never read the book. They fired him for partisan politics. And the word Democrat or Republican is not even mentioned in the book. It's not about politics. It's about principles and educating people for what the real fight is in America. Are you following me? So they started reading the book. And guess what? They realized he didn't break any law. They realized he was telling the truth. And guess what? They couldn't backtrack. Because now you've got people in the highest levels of government who hold the principles that we would call Marxism. And so what do? They issued a statement saying, we have lost faith and trust in the command of Matthew Lohmeier. And get this now. They honorably discharged him. Honorably. Why? Because he broke no laws. He violated no regulation. But then guess what they did? They took away from him all of his benefits. All retirement, medical, took it away. Even though several senators stood up to fight for him, it was denied. He's lost his insurance, he's lost his retirement, he's lost his career, all because he decided to take a stand. Now, I think I can tell you this. It's not classified. When word came down, he was dismissed honorably, and he would no longer have a career. Generals, 2-star, 3-star, former chiefs of staff, unbeknownst to Matt, showed up at his house. His wife, Sarah, their 2 kids, beautiful kids, 2 of them, boy and a girl. They knew they were coming. They ring the doorbell, and all these generals had brought liquor and booze. Matt opens the door, and they say, Matt, you are our hero. He walked into his house. They walked into his house, and they toasted Matt Lohmeier. They toasted him. Now, they can't come out publicly because of the threats against him. A couple have, but they can't. Now, you say, what is Matt doing now? Well, get this. Some of these generals have formed a nonprofit, and they have said, Matt, we want you to be director of operations, and we want you to lead our country back to an understanding of why we are the way we are. And he is traveling on behalf of the nonprofit, not paid very much right now. He doesn't speak very often. He agreed to come and speak to you. And here's the deal. What he's doing lines up with what OPAC is doing, but this man has paid a very heavy price. And as we listen to him speak today, I think we owe it to him in the beginning and at the end to let him know how much we appreciate Commander Matt Lohmeier.